All right, here's a great one. We have some trig, but not only that, we have a x times y inside the cosine. So we'll have a chain rule, which will require implicit differentiation. All right, so here we go. So the derivative of cosine is negative sine. So negative sine, copy, and here's where it gets really crazy. All right, so, and the thing that we copied, we have to take the derivative of. All right, well, that's going to be a product rule. Okay, so much room do I need for that? Probably about that much. All right, so here we go. So I'm about to do that product right there. First, derivative of the second. And some people do put y primes. I might do that on the next one. Just it's up to you. I'm used to dy dx, but if you want to put y primes, I'll do. Like I said, I'll do that on example 6, so you can see what that looks like. It might be a little bit quicker for you. All right, plus the second, and then the derivative of the first. All right, so that's a little crazy, and you're like, well, how am I going to get that dy dx out? Well, this little arrow that I drew for the chain rule actually is about to become an arrow for a distributive property. We're going to distribute that negative sine xy to both of those terms, and that way I can isolate the dy dx. And so then on the right-hand side, the derivative of x with respect to itself is 1, and the derivative of 3y with respect to x is 3, but then we've got to have a chain rule. All right, so here we go. Okay. All right. So then I've got to distribute, because there's no way to get that dy dx out of there if I don't distribute that negative sine xy at some point. So this is going to look a little crazy. So it's going to go negative x sine xy dy dx. Make sure I didn't free in anything. Looks good. Minus, because that is a negative after all, y sine xy. And I'll leave the parentheses just because I like to have them. We've got so much stuff floating around here. I don't want anyone to think that those are not separated from each other inside that sign. All right, and then, of course, this is just coming on down. I want to distribute first before I start moving stuff around. So everything with the dy dx needs to go on the left-hand side, in my opinion. They just need to be on the same side. But I put them on the left-hand side. So I'm going to leave that there. And then we could have factored out the dy dx's that are coming over there, but there's a lot going on here, so I'm just going to go ahead and not skip a step this time. All right, and so that on the right-hand side, that 3 dy dx needs to be subtracted, so now it could be on the left-hand side. All right, the 1 on the right-hand side is going to stay right where it's at, and then we're going to add a sine xy. So add y sine. As you can see, there's lots of places to make mistakes, so you got to be careful. So these often show up as free response questions, and that way, you could, you get credit for having some things correct. Like I know that they give points for having the dy dx's in the right place, but then if something goes wrong after that, you still could earn a point. So that's pretty good. So dy dx then factored out on the left hand side, and you have this crazy thing remaining, but it is what it is. So x sine xy. Just make sure you've got a plan of attack here, and that's the important thing. And so then if you're just careful and you don't rush, hopefully you don't make any mistakes. I mean, mistakes can happen with signs, sign, not sine, but I guess they could happen with sines also. But just be super careful. All right, whew. All right, we're almost there. So now I got to divide, and you've got this insane looking thing with mixtures of x and y's and sine xy's all over the place. But it just is what it is. So 1 plus y sine. This will be good for us to work on in class, where I can come by and help you. And that way, if you do get a little lost in the weeds here, I can help you out. And it looks like I've divided everything, and it looks pretty good. I don't see any mistakes. There could be, but I hope not. So the very first thing was to take the derivative of the cosine. Yeah. Copy. Chain rule was nuts because you had an x times y in there, but that's just that's the way that goes. Right hand side was pretty clean. And so then over here, I don't see any mistakes with the parentheses or anything. I distributed properly with the correct sign, negative with both of those, and assign xy with both of those, factored out dy dx after that. At that point, after I had subtracted that and added the y sine x, factor out the dy dx's. Again, a step could be skipped and it would not be improper to do so. From there to there, that's a tough one. I think you want to show that. But I think from there to there, it'd be okay to skip. And then, or even from here to there. So I think you could skip the second step to the fourth step or the third step to the fifth step and be okay and still get your full points. Okay. All right. That's all for 5. That one was long enough.